Saturn rules the long game. So wherever Saturn is in your chart, chances are you're not going to get rewards from it until you start diligently doing the work, which is bad news for the ADHD people out there or the ADD people, because it's slow burning, long sustained effort in the belief that it will all pay off. I was watching an interview with George R. Martin and Stephen King talking. They were talking about the whole writing process, and George R. Martin was going nuts. He was saying to Stephen King, how the hell can you write so many books? He says, in the time that I wrote one book, you've written 20. He says, and Stephen King said, if I write 6 pages every day, in 2 months, I'll be done. And that's his whole philosophy, and that's a completely Saturnian way of looking at it. And that's how he writes a book. Even if they're not 6 good pages, he can always come back and edit them later. But he sits down and he disciplines himself, and he writes 6 pages every day. And ironically, in his more controlled, slow, methodical approach, he's able to cover a lot more ground. It's the tortoise and the hare at the end of the day. While George R. Martin, everybody's still waiting for the next Game of Thrones book, but not waiting at the same time, because it just doesn't have any bearing on the first books anymore. It's just gone completely haywire anyway. I think even he can't remember where he's at for those. So Saturn rules the long game. Saturn is where we develop technique and mastery. You know what? Bruce Lee had this saying that don't fear a man who's done 10,000 kicks one time, fear the man who's done one kick 10,000 times. That last kick that he will do will be so economical on energy, so efficient, so quick, so powerful and directed, it'll be overwhelming if it's been done 10,000 times. And that's the Saturn philosophy. Mastery is not something we're born with. The world's full of people who are born with talent and skill and things like that and do nothing with it. Saturn is all about technique, and technique is something that's built from from repetition, from doing it again and again and again until we perfect it. And in that
That's
way,
why I'm here.
yeah, well, yeah. And Saturn is all about technique and mastery. And if we take a step back and we look at Saturn in the context of esoteric astrology or multiple lifetimes and things like that, Saturn in that regard is an enduring factor, something that will persist from this life into the next one, that will act as a gateway. And again, too, he's the bouncer standing between both, who's teaching us the skills, getting rid of all the useless shit that we don't need in order that we can live a more fulfilled and more complete and more enlightened life in the next one.
And represents bones as well, which is something that
Yes.
is going to last way longer than the flesh.